see, I mean, Dauphine is a fairly sizable institution, hundreds of millions of budget. It would be a sizable, actually, enterprise if it was one.
Each of a faculty member is a little entrepreneur in spirit. Those are people that like actually to innovate in general, being teaching, research, or new formats or whatever. They like to innovate new structures. For instance, we created 2 years ago a museum about management. This is very original. When you think about Museum of Management, what do you put in that museum?
This is really something that fascinates me because about 15% are really only in the pure management and international business space studying, and then the majority, obviously some are finance, but then the vast majority, far over 50%, are law, are like sociology, political science, mathematics, journalism, etc.
So little by little we constructed up to having this Paris School of AI, or more generally what we call in France cluster, AI cluster. And this is actually the AI cluster that obtained the biggest funding at the national level. This is 75 million for 5 years.
Would you say that that's the main factor that makes Dauphine stand out, or what makes Dauphine so special? Hello, welcome. I'm Michael. I'm the host of AlpMomentum Podcast, and I'm giving a very warm welcome to a very special guest today, to Professor Bouchard, the president of this great French university, Dauphine, PSL. So warm welcome, Professor.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Michael.
So before we start, actually, huge congratulations. You scored first place in terms of most efficient universities across all Europe in the area of mid-sized universities. And therefore even more happy to have you and learn more about both your personal story, but also how you're running this institution. Maybe before we go to talk about Dauphine, could you share a little bit about your background? I think I have never heard of a child saying, I wish to become president of a university as their kind of childhood dream. But you managed. So tell us a little bit about your path. How came that?
Well, I will come to the very beginning of the story later. But for me, as an institutional involvement, it started like 8 years ago, a little bit more than 8 years ago, when the former president of Dauphine, Isabelle Huot, who later on joined EM Lyon, came to my office asking me whether I wanted to join her team as a vice president for research for the university. Honestly, at that time, I did not have such an experience, so it was completely new for me. But I really liked the ideas she wanted to push for Dauphine. And so I just accepted to join our team. And it turned out that she imposed a lot of reform during her 4 years mandate. We worked a lot. We also actively participated to the real construction of Paris Sciences et Lettres. I think the story of Paris Sciences et Lettres really started at that time. I mean, scientifically, pedagogically. We did a lot of things together with the whole team. And when she decided to move on to EM Lyon, I decided to go on with AlpMomentum. And during this 4 more years, we actually worked very close together. Again, at the level of Dauphine, at the level of PSL. Maybe I should say a word about PSL. So PSL is a research-intensive university that actually brings together very prestigious schools or universities like Dauphine, but also École Normale Supérieure, École des Mines, maybe schools that you know a little bit less, but that are very prestigious in France, like USPCI. There are also art schools, etc., etc. So we did a lot of things in these directions, and it turned out that AlpMomentum decided to actually join PSL as a president at the end of his mandate. But at the time, we had constructed teams together. We were doing really things together. So for me, it was really natural to take over the teams and go on. Now, on a personal side, I am a full alumni of Dauphine. I started at undergraduate level at Dauphine, starting with management and economics. Then I turned to more economics and finance. So I have a master's degree in that field. But at a point, I wanted to go back to mathematics. So I did mathematics in parallel. I have also a master's degree from Dauphine in mathematics. So you see, I know the the university quite well, almost all sides of the university. I did a PhD, then I joined Sorbonne University before coming back to Dauphine. And this means that I have a special attachment to this institution, also because I could have this special track in Dauphine. So this means that people supported me when I was a student. And I think that myself and all my team actually really want somehow to give back to Dauphine. So our involvement in the presidential team is really about working for Dauphine. It's not a question, you asked me whether we think or not at being president when we are young. Well, it's not a question of career after all. It's really pushing projects, pushing ideas, working for the whole collective.
Amazing. And maybe, obviously, I mean, Dauphine is a fairly sizable institution, hundreds of millions of budget. It would be a sizable, actually, enterprise if it was one. So maybe you can share like two things. What I always wonder in an academic environment, how does a typical day look like of somebody who is in charge of leading that institution? And also, how do you think about leadership at all? I find it extremely challenging oftentimes, or actually admirable, because you have all these, let's say, very independent thinkers, these professors that are kind of like a little bit kings in their own castle. So it's not like an enterprise where I say you have to do this and then they have to do it. So how does your day look like, and how do you think about leadership?
Well, about leadership, maybe first, because how the day looks like is a consequence of this, which is quite clear. I think, well, I have been involved in many important projects for Dauphine or PSL, and pretty complex projects involving a lot of stakeholders. Involving a lot of also technicality, because at the end there is not only about having ideas, you have to implement them, and this is at a technical level that you do that. And obviously you have to show some kind of leadership, you have to have some kind of dynamics, you have to try to convince people, but it's not all. I mean, maybe you don't have the good ideas, maybe what you propose is okay, but it has to be arranged. I mean, you are not alone, and I really believe in collective, in the fact that we are much smarter collectively than individually. So I really believe in that. So I would typically try to push ideas, innovations, and things like that. But what is very important is actually to really leave space to the teams, to my colleagues, to express their wish, to express their criticism, to express their proposal, and to really be onboarded and to be really at the heart of the project. And if you do not manage to convince people, this might just simply mean that your project is not good. This can also mean that maybe it's too early. Sometimes it's too early. You start discussing things, it's too early. People don't want to move. So you have to postpone a little bit, wait a little bit, and 1 year later, you can actually discuss again the subject. And then you can go through. And I have experiences in that direction. Now, autonomy, or from the pedagogical point of view, or from the academic point of view in terms of research, I think this is very important, actually. In terms of research, at the individual level, people should be somehow autonomous, because this is how ideas actually emerge, innovation emerge. I mean, it's not about the team, the presidential team, having ideas for the others in terms of research. So it has to be free somehow. Same thing in terms of pedagogy. I mean, disciplines know what they want, what they need, what are the needs, etc. How things have to evolve. But people are not completely autonomous. I mean, in terms of research strategies, this is also discussed in the research departments. in terms of research strategies, we are actually pushing certain formats. For instance, we created what we call a Grand Programme de Recherche at the level of PSL. These are huge amount of money that are spent to actually have interdisciplinary, inter-institutional among the members of PSL research projects. And we actually pushed in certain directions. You try to organize things, but you organize things such a way that people will like to work for that. Okay, because you know what they want also, and you know that you have the strengths for that. So it's a question of having the feeling of what can be actually attractive for people. And then you create the structures in which people will be able actually to push in the same direction as yours. So, and from the pedagogical point of view, here again, this is discussed in teaching departments. So it's collectively discussed. And then we can actually try to push certain orientations. For instance, maybe we will talk about that later. We push for the creation very early of a double degree at the undergraduate level on AI and management and economics. And when you arrive with such a project, it's kind of a small revolution for the teaching department. So obviously people, it takes time to onboard them, but then you succeed in onboarding them. And after 3 years, they are very happy of what we constructed.
So you can already graduate in AI at Dauphine?
Yeah, well, actually what we created is really at the bachelor level, I have a double degree within 3 years, really in between AI and economics and management, to have the two sides. And what we really believe is that it's not only a question of being attractive. Also, this is a demand from the student side. But we really believe that we have to actually create a new generation of leaders that can actually understand both sides of the field. I mean, you have to understand the technology to know what you can do with it. Large language models are not just magic. There are mathematics behind that, which explain what you can do, what you cannot do. And on the other hand, you have to understand why is it useful for business? How can you use it for business or for society? And we want to actually train people to have really the both sides. And this is very important on top of training specialists of AI, of core AI on one side, and training specialists of different businesses on the other side. This intermediate profiles are very important, I think, in the industry, but also for the society.
Absolutely. Maybe before we go deeper on on the topics, etc., can you just quickly describe Dauphine, like size, location, focus areas, etc., for the audience?
Yeah. So Dauphine is really a university on a human scale. And this is important for us because this means that we are pretty agile. I mean, we can actually evolve pretty quickly. So it is located in Paris, in the 16th arrondissement near Bois de Boulogne, a very nice area. And it's a university on a human scale. We have approximately 10,000 students. We have 4,000 more students if you consider executive programs. Actually, we are the biggest. We have the biggest executive programs among universities among universities. The idea of Dauphine is quite recent. It has been created after the demonstration of May 68 in France. You know, we had this very big demonstration at that time. And it was created in the former headquarters of NATO. So I am in one of the room. Maybe Kennedy came here one day. It was created there, and it was really created as an experimental university. This is the very important point. In the minds of the founders of Dauphine, the idea at that time was really to establish management as an academic discipline on its own, right? And actually in France, it was not the case at all. It was really not the case at all. And at the time, we recruited people coming back from the United States, where management was already an academic discipline. And the idea was to build management, but at the time, it had to draw on other disciplines like economics, sociology, political sciences, law, mathematics, and computer sciences. This is really the idea of the construction. And since then, these disciplines have evolved on their own path. But what we kept from that time that is very, very important in Dauphine is the capacity of these different disciplines to work together for creating new education paths, but also to work together in terms of research. And because we are somehow a medium-sized university, people can actually, meet themselves. They know each other, and this is very easy to organize these things at Dauphine.
I think, this is really something that fascinates me because, if you just look at the pure student numbers, or at least what I found, it's about 15% are really only in the pure management and international business space studying, and then the majority, obviously, some are finance, but then the vast majority, far over 50%, are law, are like sociology, political science, mathematics, journalism, etc. So this is, I think, this is pretty unique in terms of the close link. Would you say that that's the main factor that makes Dauphine stand out, or what makes Dauphine so special? And also the results are pretty amazing. What I'm astonished, and when we did this study, I think it's by far the largest study on universities and entrepreneurship in Europe, analyzing over 900 institutes with a total budget of 250 billion. And for the type of subjects the majority of your students are active, it's quite astonishing how entrepreneurial they are. So maybe you can also talk a little bit about. So one is like what makes Dauphine special, but then also I was wondering, either basically every business student founds a startup, which I don't believe, or you somehow manage to actually bring this entrepreneurial spirit to a lot of other areas.
Also, our colleagues, our faculty members do not really create startups because they are more about research in connection with the industry. This is very important, but they want to focus on research. But each of our faculty member is a little entrepreneur in spirit. Those are people that like actually to innovate in general, being teaching, research, or new formats or whatever. They like to innovate new structures. But for instance, we created 2 years ago a museum about management. This is very original. When you think about Museum of Management, what do you put in that museum?
I've never heard that idea. It's a great idea, actually.
This is a super success. This is incredible. We have many people that want to visit it. We have partnerships with other museums. We have companies that bring their comex or direction to this museum. So this spirit somehow of creating things is really in the DNA of Dauphine. Now for students, again, I think we are a medium-sized university. We are very agile, and we decided very early to invest very early in the French landscape, to invest in an incubator, to create this incubator. We were able to do this because before we created a university foundation, which is not so current in the French landscape, actually. So the incubator was created in 2012. And since then, we have tested different things all the time. And we, because we are agile again, we can move forward and adapt our programs very, very quickly. I'll give you two examples, for instance, in terms of entrepreneurship. We have created what we call a parcours talent. So it's a talent track. In that talent track, which is at the undergraduate level, we receive actually athletes who are artists of very high level, typically people that are in national teams at their age. And we also receive young entrepreneurs, so people just coming out of high school. And we actually give them a special support, special mentoring, schooling arrangement, etc., so that they can either train or actually create their own business. And really, the support is really fine-tuned for them. it's really
But sorry, if you mean
customized.
train, you mean like if there's a sports that training sports and then also learning, or training to create a startup or
No.
learn?
We do the learning side. We do the learning side. For sport, for instance, we do the learning side, and then they are training national teams and things like that. But if we talk about athletes, typically somebody who has a competition in the south of France, the day there is an exam, there will be one of our teachers that will go there, so that the student can actually pass his exam between two round of his competition. This is really manages things at the individual level, and we do the same for young entrepreneurs.
And this is an international program, or it's in French?
No, it's Dauphine actually who organized this.
But is it in English or in French?
No, it's in French. This one is in French. If you talk about the incubator, for instance, what we observed is that typically for women, it takes a little bit more time to really think about the project they want to push, and also to build their own self-confidence, which is very important when you want to create a business. We observe that. So what did we do? We actually created a dedicated path, kind of pre-incubation path, but really build up on the idea of building your self-confidence before moving forward to real incubation. So we really observe. We are small. We can move very quickly.
Amazing. I think so. Let us quickly talk about this topic of like female entrepreneurs. Because also what we see, I mean, everybody is in a way complaining and saying there are too little women that start startups and found startups. On the other side, what I also observed is that oftentimes women feel they need to basically be like 110% in terms of knowledge and skill set to where they are. And while you have sometimes men who say, like, I concluded my internship, yes, of course I can apply for the CEO position. Actually, the most funny thing, or maybe you've also read this, is like if the pilot faints and somebody has to land a large Airbus, basically I think 0% or close to 0% of women would say they could do that, while 50% of men say they could land that airplane. And obviously that's a huge issue. I think it's would be amazing to have more female founders. And you're maybe you can share a little bit more about like the program. What does it tackle exactly? How do you go along? Because I have never heard about this special basically pre-path, which in a way makes sense if you look at the pure numbers, because the numbers are pretty clear. So we need to change something. So I really like this as a very innovative approach.
Yeah, no, the idea is really exactly what you said. So, but the solution to that is to take more time. You take more time to prepare, to be clear about exactly what you want to do, to check everything, but you do it without any pressure. This is what makes a difference. And you discuss, and you do confidence building. This is really about discussion and refining a little bit the preparation compared to men. This is really just about that.
Do you see any change in the numbers or in the results?
Actually, we launched this program 1 year ago, so we are just starting. I cannot share figures for the moment; it wouldn't mean anything. But what I heard from my colleagues who are taking care of the incubator is that it's pretty successful. It really works. So maybe if you interview me within 2 years, I will be able to.
I would love to. I think if that works, it could be really a role model for Europe to do this. Fantastic. So maybe before we go deeper down the route, two questions. One is, how do you ensure? Obviously, I mean, from where we're coming, you're very successful in terms of encouraging your students to create startups, but also you mentioned research and that professors are very like focused on research. How do you ensure like the same quality in research teaching, but also knowledge transfer in an environment of an academic autonomy, for one? And then maybe also what is one of the biggest maybe academic successes or research successes that Dauphine had in the last years that you can or want to share?
So first of all, in terms of quality, of pushing excellence, etc., you have to know that in France, universities are evaluated actually every 4 or 5 years by an independent academic body that is called HCERS. We have actually currently many discussions in France because our National Assembly would like to make this HCERS disappear, but I hope it will stay. But for the moment, we are evaluated by them. And so this is on a very regular basis, and they actually evaluate both research, teaching, and governance, global governance. We are, for the executive programs, we are also assessed by another body to obtain a certification that is called Calliope. And on top of that, we also have the label Equis. So this is another round of assessment of evaluation. So as in general, we are evaluated all the time. So it's really push forward towards excellence all the time. Moreover, what is, as I said before, research strategies, evolutions in terms of teachings are actually discussed in certain committees in Dauphine. So people are not completely autonomous. By the way, at the end, in terms of education, for instance, all the decisions are taken by the board of directors. This is where the real decisions are taken. And individually, our colleagues are also evaluated very often. Whenever you want to get a bonus, we have certain classes of bonuses in France that you can try to have. Whenever you want to have an evolution in your career, evolution in your career, you are evaluated. Okay, so all this is promoting excellence absolutely all the time.
And do you have, that's interesting, do you have like really kind of yearly bonuses based on certain criteria and success, or is it just fixed payment no matter what?
No, it's typically, there is, the most important one is something that is given, it used to be given at the national level before. Now it is on the local level, but with reports coming from a national body. But then we take the decision really locally now. And this kind of bonus, you can get it for 4 years, and it's a yearly bonus. And it depends on the quality, on the impact of your research.
And maybe in terms of like research output, are there any papers that your university has published, or one of the professors, any I don't know prizes they have won, or anything, any innovation in terms of teaching where you say this is really outstanding?
Maybe I could talk about. So it's not a paper. I already mentioned it before, but I could talk about a great construction that we did actually at the level of Paris Sciences et Lettres, which is a Prairie Paris School of Artificial Intelligence. Because this is a really huge project. We started to work on it, something like 7 years ago. We constructed things little by little. At the beginning, the idea was really to bring together all the forces on core artificial intelligence of the different schools of PSL, so typically Dauphine, École des Mines, École Normale Supérieure, but also Collège de France. Because already bringing them together was making something very important. And the idea was really to create an interinstitutional AI research center, but also, and very importantly, to widespread the use of AI in all disciplines of PSL, being physics up to management, biology, etc., and even arts, because we have a number of art schools at the level of Paris Sciences et Lettres. So we did this little by little, using national, using European funding. For instance, we created a co-fund for that. And little by little, we constructed up to having this Paris School of AI, or more generally, what we call in France, cluster, AI cluster. And this is actually the AI cluster that obtained the biggest funding at the national level. This is 75 million for 5 years. So it's a very big success. And if you consider people, going back to results, if you consider people that are working in that cluster, AI cluster or Paris School of AI, you have, for instance, Tristan Cazenave. He's a computer scientist. He's a specialist of games. It's a guy who I think it's in 2020, he won 5 gold medals in the computer Olympiads using the same algorithm for competing for different games. Is world championship of games. And what he did recently actually is he actually solved the Etana 100 benchmark fully, which is a big shot in computational biology. So this is like 1 month ago or something like that. So we have this kind of result in this, and this is really the strength of PSL. This ability we have to really work together and build up pretty huge things together.
I truly think that what PSL has created and this interchange between different institutes, I think there are 11 universities in this area, is pretty unique and also exemplary for Europe. And also what we've seen, if you manage to combine different subjects and collaborate amongst different institutes, that yields huge benefits. Mm-hmm. One maybe to go very now concrete to entrepreneurship. What are some of the most successful founders that have come from Dauphine? Most successful companies, would be great to hear some background stories about that.
So one very iconic student project that came out of our incubator is Madbox. So Madbox has been created by a student who was in business and consulting. And what he did is that with collaborators, they created a mobile video game studio. But it turned out that they are very agile and they are very, very good in being able to produce, test, and replicate very quickly games with quite important viral potential. So they have actually, I checked recently the figures. So now they are up to 500 million downloads of their games.
Oh, wow.
They raised 16.5 million euros in 2020, and they have 2 of their games. Maybe you know them actually, Stickman Hook and Parkour Race, that actually reached the top 5 of downloads on iOS and Android. So this is a super successful story. There is another one on the alumni side, because we have a track for current students and a track for alumni. Mm-hmm. And on the alumni side, there is Cardinal. So Cardinal has been built up by a former student in mathematics and computer sciences, not computer sciences, sorry, data sciences. So what Cardinal does is actually optimization of logistic and delivery routes using artificial intelligence. And where you can actually see the big success is that as clients, they now have a Chronopost. Maybe you know Chronopost. It's a huge actor in France, actually. But they have also DHL. This you know, I guess. And this, they raised 10 million euros in 2022. And what they claim is that they are actually able to reduce the number of kilometers by 15 up to 30%. So I didn't check myself, but when I see the clients they have, I can believe that it's working pretty well.
No, really great. And do you see any common patterns in your students where you say they become later on entrepreneurs or especially successful entrepreneurs? Is there a commonality that you have observed?
Yeah, but I think it's common to all entrepreneurs. So among students, what's clear that they have a lot of curiosity, but they have a lot of humility also, because it's not about being in the top of the class. It's really not that. It's about being ready to actually face reality. I mean, you're not studying, you are in real life and you have a lot of difficulties. So they are really to be prepared for that. These are people that certainly have the ability to transform ideas into action very quickly and also learn from their mistakes. They are ready to make mistakes and they are ready to learn from them. And it turned out that the successful students are those who seek support from the university quite early. So I don't know whether it's because they are really motivated and they ask very early how they can be supported, or whether they are successful because they are supported very early. Maybe both of them. I don't know. But this agility, this capacity of really dealing with real world and learning fast, this is really what we see among our students. And again, it has nothing to do with the academic level of the students.
Yeah. No, certainly it's also what we observe is like speed of learning is actually one of the most important areas. I'm super careful in giving advice to people because every circumstance, every kind of background is different. But the one where I'm normally quite convinced is about that if you optimize for speed of learning, that's normally never a bad idea. Mm-hmm. Very few things where that might not apply. And how would you, can you talk a little bit about, like, you have lots of different subjects. Do you see differences in the type of companies that are founded or the amount from like the business side and the non-business side? And then as first question, and second one, how do you support the students on the path? You said very early, so assume there are different kind of programs, processes during a whole kind of study phase.
So first of all, our positioning is rather generalist. So you have the companies I was talking about. There is a startup that is being created in the incubator that is about food for pets, but biological food. So you have all size and quite a very large variety of domains. So obviously on AI and things like that, we are pretty well prepared because we have a lot of track, we have research centers, etc. But the variety of size and types of applications of these companies is quite huge. And in general, I would say that we have quite generalist positioning. After all, management is the biggest part of Dauphine. And this explains, I think, this positioning. Now, for the students, and more generally, I think for Dauphine, this is very important actually, because our model is not only about incubation; it's about creating a whole ecosystem. So before incubation, there is learning, and at the very first year of bachelor, actually, students have one lecture on innovation and in entrepreneurship. So they already are a little bit aware about the idea of entrepreneurship, and they learn already a little bit about going from ideation to business model. They learn a little bit about economic viability, etc. So we try to raise their awareness about this idea of creating their own startup immediately when they arrive at the first year. Now, depending on their curricula, they will be able to follow different lectures and specialize little bit by little bit. And this is after at the master level that they can actually specialize if they want. So we have actually 2 master programs. One is management and innovation of technology. And this one is more on the intrapreneurial side. And there is another one that is really on entrepreneurship. So business creation, fundraising, and things like that. So there is this all education along the path of the student, starting from bachelor up to master program. So this is one pillar that is important for us. The second thing is obviously this track talent I told you about. So it's really about schooling arrangement, giving more time to the student to prepare their project. And they have mentoring. They can already participate to certain activities of the incubator. So they are already projected into the entrepreneurship world. Maybe we will talk about that later, but we have strong connection with certain business angels, for instance. So they have already the possibility to discuss with them. And whenever they are ready, they are pushed forward to the incubator or to other types of collaboration. And actually, what we did also more generally is create what we call the House of Entrepreneurship, that is really pushing this awareness about entrepreneurship in the whole Dauphine community. And students typically will go to the House of Entrepreneurship first, because this is where we do actually the pre-incubation phase. So we try to discuss about the project, whether it's pertinent, whether it makes sense, we reframe it, etc., and we give advices. And then when you are in the incubator, you have the support of a traditional incubator, so individual strategic coaching, financing assistance, including there are a lot of possibilities in France to have public subsidized. We have the foundation. This is important. This is part of the ecosystem. Because of the foundation, you can actually get honorary grants up to 40,000 euros, which can be the first step towards fundraising. We have also dedicated a lot of space for our incubator. Actually, we just have constructed a new building on the Paris campus. So they have fresh new spaces that are much bigger than before. And in the place where the incubator is, you will have the House of Entrepreneurship just next door. You will have the Alumni Association just next door. And you will have Dauphine Foundation just next door. So this is the whole ecosystem that is very important for us. And for instance, on Dauphine alumni, this is very important because this is a way to raise funds that are then reinjected into the incubator. And I mentioned already those business angels. Actually, there is a club that is called Dauphine Invest, and this is a club of alumni that are business angels. And then it's very easy to connect the students with these people, and it's it's kind of intergenerational support, which is very precious for the students, and our alumni obviously like this, so they are very strong support.
That's fantastic. And can you share, like, how is this exactly organized? So if I'm a student, I have an idea, I went through this incubator, and now I've maybe a first prototype, and I say I want to raise funds. Then what happens?
Then these are the people of the incubator that do that, but they can go to business angel. We have also a number of partnerships with major companies, and these major companies offers us coaching. So this is a way to coach our young entrepreneurs, but they also open collaborations. And they open a lot of things because they might have also interest in the creation of a new business. We have also a strong link with the world of capital venture, so we can actually direct our young entrepreneur to them to try to have seed funding, to early stage funding, etc.
So the university also, or the incubator also keeps contact with different venture capital firms, and the like.
Yeah. And in Dauphine, it's really in our DNA to have contact with with companies, and this is already the case in our teaching. Our teaching is really organized like this. This is really academic teaching in the sense that the core is really anchored into research being done in our research department. This is very important for us, because we really believe, like all our colleagues, I think that this is a way really to give the keys for being able to adapt to evolution, to evolve in a career. But on the other hand, we put a lot of emphasis on having professional, having part of lectures, or having discussions with our students, because we want our students to be to actually face industrial practices very early in their curriculum. So this is something that is very natural in Dauphine, not only for when we talk about entrepreneurship.
Great to hear. Maybe to one at the beginning of when we speak about formation or ideation, one of the things I'm always very interested in is how do you organize this cross-subject collaboration? So you have one institute, you mentioned biology, or for example, pet food. You can, I think, neither study food or agriculture nor biology at Dauphine. So maybe some people with knowledge came through. How do you exactly organize it? Where do people meet? How often? How is it structured?
So first, generally in Dauphine, okay? Because this is
Dauphine and then with PSL.
Yeah. So generally in Dauphine. So we have a lot of structures to have cross-disciplinary, interdisciplinary researchers. So what we push forward actually are typically research program with actually the economic sector with non-academic sector, and this is what we call shares in our language. And they are typically pluridisciplinary research, being, for instance, right now on sustainable development, AI, but it can be on small-sized companies. It can be on, for instance, women and sciences, how women actually integrate sciences and things like that. So we have research program on that. And these are really pluridisciplinary research program. And we have been, as governments, always supporting this at the level of Dauphine with the help of Fondation Dauphine. So this is really in our ID, in our DNA to build up such programs. At the level of PSL, we also organize huge research programs, interdisciplinary research programs, with fundings from PSL. So one, for instance, is on sustainable development. And what we did is actually put together all disciplines, but really all disciplines of PSL to work on that subject, because this is typically a multidisciplinary subject. So we have physicists, we have biologists, and we have people from management, people from law, etc., that actually work together. So this is a question of putting the right structure. Again, you organize the right structure, and people go to there, because this is a fantastic playground.
And then if you say right structure, so it means they have courses together, they have, I don't know, they write papers together, they create case study, or
you organize. So for the researchers, you organize conferences, you give a little bit of money so that they can have PhD students working within the different disciplines. You organize conferences, you put a lot of light on what they are doing. This is really a question of support and organizing the discussion. So now for if I go back to entrepreneurship, what we try to do is actually have small groups that discuss together, but just like this. You discuss. So maybe you discuss about the subject, or you discuss more globally. And the idea is to really put these people in the same room and have this kind of discussion. And then intelligence work. Innovation emerges. This is really how it works. And actually in the new building I told you about, we will have really a huge room dedicated to this, and we will call it the brainstorming room. And the idea is something we already do, but we want to do it at a larger scale. The idea is to have researchers, teachers, industrial partners, students. Students are very important. PhD students, but also students from bachelor and master program, be together in the room, spend maybe 3 hours on a subject, and have discussion. For instance, our researchers, I told you, they are not really interested in, at least in our field in Dauphine, in building a company or applying for patents or things like that. They just want to have time for research, but they like to discuss. So you put them in the room. Industrials will come with their issues, problems, views on the future. Students will come with their freshness and ability to work, the time they can actually consecrate to this. And then you will have the researchers that will say, yes, but the future is this. From the academic point of view, the future is this, and we will be able to do this within 5 years, not this, etc., etc. And then you let them discuss together. And I think this is how innovation can emerge in a university.
Makes a lot of sense, and really great how you think about it. Maybe one other question area: if you could change one or two things, what would you do? And what are from your point of maybe the direction I want to aim to is, what are the biggest barriers to even be more entrepreneurial, to create more startups? Also, especially how do you make sure that a lot of this amazing research, and in general European universities are amazing in research, there are so many great ideas, but I think we lack in translating that into products and companies and then make it available to a whole society. So maybe both a question to what do you think could you do at Dauphine even better, and what would be your advice to maybe the French or European government? What would you like to see changed?
Yeah, it's really a difficult question. So as I told you, at least in our fields, researchers want to do research. If they were about creating a company, they would have done it before. Some of them have actually created some companies, but it's a small number. If I look at French companies, compared to Anglo-Saxon companies typically. They are also very often looking for a solution, say for tomorrow, if not for yesterday sometimes. So we are not, sometimes it's more about engineering at the end. So you have to explain them that, first of all, we have different time scale. I mean, we are working for within 5 years, maybe 10 years, even more at the university. They want to have solution very fast. And we also have to explain them that, well, having the solution for tomorrow is very important, but having the solution for the 10 next year is much more important if you want your business to actually be viable in the future. So we have to have this discussion, and the way we actually do the transfer again is through students. This is what works, at least at Dauphine. This is really what works. So in the shares I told you about, typically shares, this correspond to research project over at least 3 years, maybe. So very often it's renewed, so it's most of the time 6 years at least. The shares actually hire students, PhD students. And their PhD students actually are making the connection between the two worlds, and it worked very well. We have another format in France that is called CIFRE contract for PhD students. So these are PhD students that are actually hired by the company. So they spend half their time in the company, half their time at the university. And this is how we organize the circulation of ideas. On one end, on one side, academic ideas going back up to somehow solutions in the industry. On the other end, issues from the industry going back, going up to academic research. I think that it really works because we have those students in the middle. This is, at least in Dauphine, this is how it works mainly.
It's interesting if you say you put innovation and creation of companies and startups, you center everything around students. Interesting thought. Maybe so, like from people who listen, what would you wish for? If you could wish for anything, is there anything that you would like whoever come to you and say, what would you be very excited if somebody wrote you an email?
You mean in terms of new creation?
No matter what, if you say like, look, we need, I don't know, more sponsors, we look people who teach, we want more investors coming, more people who do an MBA, whatever. What is on top of your mind? What would you wish for?
I would like certainly to have more creations of startup, and I think we actually can do it. These are things you need time to learn. Okay, we created the incubator in 2012. It's 13 years ago, but this is a time to make all the progresses and to raise money, etc., etc. We have adapted a lot. Starting from that date, we have created the House of Entrepreneurship, which is quite recent. This is 2 years ago. So the whole ecosystem is now built. We have new space rooms. A new space for the incubator, and what I think is that with the experience we had so far, we can now accelerate. So over the last 10 years, we supported a little bit more than 250 startups with a very good rate of success, because we have 80% of survival rate over 3 years. And the idea now is to accelerate and maybe double the number of startups we will actually support within the next 10 years, but with the same success.
Can I ask one question? Because oftentimes I hear people in Europe speak about like our success rate. I would question, if you have a high success rate, aren't you then not enough ambitious?
Maybe, but it was not a strategy. It was not a strategy, so I cannot really answer this question. It's like this, I would say. No, because at the beginning, especially at the beginning, you try to support not everybody, but everything that actually makes sense. So I'm not sure this is the issue. But the thing is that we want really to take time. I mean, support is really adapted and customized to every project. This is a little bit the spirit of Dauphine. We do things at a rather small or medium-sized scale, but we want to do it well. I mean, it's not about having figures about numbers of supported startups. It's really having good figures about success, and we put all our effort on that. And this is why we don't want to accelerate too early, because this means recruitment in terms of staff, etc., etc. But with the help of the foundation, we know that we can really now, having been successful by the past, we can now raise money for that. It's a very good time.
So if somebody wants to invest in a university or in an entrepreneurship center,
welcome.
He or she should give you a call. Amazing. Maybe last question before we end. Now, if you were 18 again, what would you advise your own younger self?
I would say just do what you want, and but work for it. Yeah, I would say that. I told you about my academic track, my academic path. Actually, I did mathematics only at the end, and I became professor in mathematics. I could do this because I really wanted to do it first, and also because I worked hard for that. And when you really want, and if you work hard, usually you get support from the good persons, and it can go through. So yeah, believe in your dreams, but work hard.
Very good and wise words. Professor Bouchard, thank you so much for this amazing podcast. Was very happy to talk to you, and wish you all the best and good luck for the future.
Thank you very much.